Back in the old days, Google released a lot of apps, and unfortunately, Google has this tendency to kill its own children, and they wound up killing things like Google Reader and things like Google Wave. And one of my favorite apps of all time is Google Plus, which wasn't an app, it was basically a platform. And they were doing great stuff with it, and then they wound up killing it. They actually moved it to something else, renamed it, but basically they killed it. So, unfortunately, as much as they release great stuff, they also do a lot of things that I wish they wouldn't do. And one of the things that they took away, they didn't kill it, they just maimed it in this case, is if you look at Google Keep, in Google Keep, let's pull up Google Keep real quick here. So every Google Keep note has an icon below, which is Remind Me. And so if you click on it, it allows you to indicate when you want to be reminded, indicating date and time. And then it'll remind you on your phone. If Google Keep is up and running, it'll remind you on your desktop. So it's nice. It's nice to be able to do that. In the old days, what they used to do is when you actually create a reminder, it also would put it in your Google Calendar, which to me was a hugely, hugely beneficial option. Why beneficial? I would basically use Google Keep as a CRM. And so what would happen is I would have one of the Keep notes, and then I would set up a reminder, and let's say this was some kind of a meeting I was going to. And then for the follow-up, I would set up a reminder so it goes on the calendar automatically. And then when I would come in and look at my Google Calendar, then I would see a bunch of different reminders at the top from Google Keep. So basically they're tasks to do. I mean, it would set them up as a task. And then you open it up, you can delete it, you can make changes to it, you can mark it completed. So basically it's a task. Very, very useful. You know, you come in, you look at the calendar, you see today you got to do all these different things that are lined up for you to do. Very handy. So they went ahead and in all their incessant wisdom, they took it away. Right now you're getting notifications on your phone when you have an alarm set up like that, and you get them if you're running Google Keep on the desktop, but you're not getting anything on your calendar. And that was very disappointing because, like I said, it's a very nice flow to be able to use it as a CRM and some other uses as well. So what I was thinking was, why don't I create something using what we have now to mimic the situation? And what I came up with, I'm going to show you in a minute here, it's more convoluted in terms of what it does than just simply adding a task to the calendar, but it accomplishes exactly the same thing. So here's what I was thinking, that if you look at Gmail, it has ability to add tasks. We got this button that says Add to Tasks. And so if I take this email here, for example, and I click on Add to Tasks, and I indicate on the right here, it puts in the title, that's the subject line of the email here. And I can add some additional details if I want, and let's just say we want to click on the calendar to put it today at 12 p.m., okay? We click submit and it's basically done. So not only do I have it here on my tasks, but if I pull up my calendar, I can see today at 12 o'clock, it says Meta launches ChatGPT. I mean, it's basically, this is what this is. It's the task that was set up on the calendar. I'm able to click on the link here to go directly back to that particular email with just a single click from the calendar, which is super handy. And there is my email. So in other words, total linkage there and very, very convenient and useful. Okay, so we know that that works. That's great. It doesn't do anything for us in terms of Keep. Okay, because one of the things you can't do is, for example, let's say you have a list. If we go with Keep, we have a list that looks something like, let's see, like this right here on the right side here. Okay, let's say we have a list of different things we want to do. You can't do this in Gmail. You can't do this on the calendar. The only way you can do this is using some other app, in this case, Google Keep. So again, going back to the concept of, okay, how are we going to do this approach to be able to just take a Google Keep note? Let's set up a new note. We'll call it this note will be shown using the new calendar link approach. Okay, just something in there. And title would be PCS solution to Google's inadequacies. How's that? Okay, so let's say we do that, and we'll even drop a little image on it so it's easy to tell what it is. Let's grab something that looks cool. How about this little AI thing? There we go. I mean, if that doesn't stand out, nothing will, right? Okay, so we have, you know, all these different notes, and this is our note right there, so we're good. So one thing we can do in Google Keep is if we look at the actual note itself, the URL for each note is unique. So if I simply click in the URL bar here, in the address bar, and copy in, the URL, now what I can do is if I go to another tab, for example, and I paste this URL, just to show you, you can see it immediately comes up with that exact Google Keep note. So that works great. Each individual note on Google Keep has its own unique URL. Okay, so now that we can do that, how do we marry it with basically Gmail's capability to put a task on the calendar? And so my solution is we go to email, we click on compose new email, we compose email to ourselves, meaning I'm going to compose it to myself. Okay, and then once I compose it, subject line, take a look at this task. We'll just put that in there. In the actual email itself, we're going to simply paste that Google Keep link that I copied before. Okay, so we do that and we simply send it. So the only thing we do, we don't put any other information. We can, okay, we can, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later. But to make it as simple as possible, I just put in some kind of subject. Again, even that's not mandatory, but it makes it better. And then we just simply paste the link and we click send. That's it. Okay. At this point, we have an email here we can see, and it's got the link and it's got, you know, the information as it was. And all I have to do is simply right click on it and select add to tasks, or I can also click on this icon here, same thing. And then we can go ahead here, now that it's got the information here, all we have to do is determine when do we want to be notified. So I'm going to click on the calendar icon. Let's push it to next week. Let's go on Friday. And I can leave it as is, which means it'll be at the top of the calendar, or I can set up a time. So let's just leave it at the top of the calendar for now. So May 2nd at the top. Click done, and we're done. Okay? At this point, what we have is we have a situation where if we go to the calendar, right there, and we go to the next week here. Oh no, I'm sorry, Friday is this week. So if we go to Friday, we can see it says right here, take a look at this task, which is the subject line I put in. And then it has a link here to this email. So if we look at this task, we can mark it completed, we can change it, we can do whatever we want with it. But we will end up having notification on the calendar. And if we want to know where it came from, if that's important, we can just click on this link here. It says take a look at this task, which is basically linked to the email. We click on it. It opens up Gmail. And then we simply click on the Keep Note link. And there is, right there, our Keep Note. So essentially, like I said, it's a little bit of a convoluted way. What we wind up doing is we wind up copying the URL for the Keep Note that we're trying to be notified about on the calendar. We are creating an email and dropping that URL into that email. And then we're sending it to ourselves, okay? And then after we have this email, at any point in time, we can add it to, from that email, we add that email to a task, as a task, and we indicate when on the calendar we want it to be visible, when it needs to remind us. And once we get that done, we're done. So essentially, that process, which is, again, a little bit confusing at first and a little convoluted, but once you start doing it, you can see it's very easy. You know, you create the Keep Note you need, you copy the URL, you jump into Gmail, you create an email for yourself, drop that URL that you just copied into the body anywhere, and you send the email, and then you right click on the email, say add to tasks, and you drop it on the calendar wherever you want to be notified, either a particular day or day and time, and you're done. Then at any point in time, you will see it on the calendar. If you need to get back to the note, to the keep note, and you can certainly deal with this task without looking at anything else, you're done. You just want it to be reminded, you're reminded. But if you want to see where the origin was, you simply click on the link in that task from the calendar, and then it'll pull up the Gmail, and then in Gmail, you click on the keep note link to actually see the original origin, which is the keep note. Okay? So if you kind of, again, try this yourself, you will see that it's definitely not complicated. And once you start doing it a little bit and you get used to it, you will see that you actually have a way to now create calendar reminders for your keep notes and essentially have the functionality that Google Keep used to have. It's just a few more steps, but it's exactly the same outcome. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. Second thing is where it gets a little bit more interesting is, let's say that you did add this to tasks. How many tasks can you add? The answer is as many as you want. So now we set up this task for May 2nd. What happens if we say add to tasks again? And now we have a duplicate task here, as you can see, by utilizing the same approach. Now I want to put this task on for tomorrow. So I'm going to say here, do this instead. And I'm going to go ahead and set it up for tomorrow. And now if we look at the calendar, we can see that tomorrow it says do this instead. We still, however, take a look at this task. So if we click on do this instead, and we click on the link, and then Gmail comes up, and we click on the link again, you can see that it takes us to exactly the same note, obviously because we use the same email that we initially created to create this task. So what does this mean? It means that we can actually set up multiple tasks to be done from the same Google Keep origin. For example, let's say you had a project you were working on, and you wanted to have 3 different people working on it on different days. You could easily set up these tasks. So when you go to the calendar, instead of saying this, you could say in the subject line there's something like Mary's tasks. So this could be here, be Jim's tasks. Okay, so now we have the same origin. And so Mary, if you share this calendar with Mary, then she can have access to it and see it, and same with Jim. The problem is, okay, I'm not going to be sharing my calendar with all these different people. It doesn't make any sense, and it's too much hassle. So how would you do that? Well, the beauty about Google Keep is you don't need to share calendars with anybody. In every little note that you create, you're also able to click down below the note. One of the options we have is remind me little bell here, but next to it says collaborator. So all I have to do is click collaborator. I can enter the email of the person I want to collaborate for this particular note, and that means that that person can see the note and can make changes to the note. Okay, so even though you don't want to give access to your Gmail to other people, which you wouldn't, so that goes back to the fact that when they have a link, they click on it, they won't be able to pull it out because it's your Gmail. You'll be able to do it, but they won't be able to do it. Even if they have the link, it won't let them because they're not you. So this is where you can get around this issue with security and privacy, whereby you don't need Gmail to be given to any other people who are in the mix. You don't need calendar to be given to any people in the mix. You simply share the note with whichever people need to have access to it, and you're done. Okay, that's how you get around that problem. So that works really well. What else can we do? Well, the last thing I want to mention in terms of use cases is what you can also do is, just like I showed you, you can set up and link this to multiple tasks. In addition to that, you can do one more thing. You can actually click on add to tasks, just like we did before, but notice over here we have a little repeat icon on the right side. So instead of us setting up just a single task for a single day, we can actually indicate that we want to set up a task for every day, and we want to start on April 30th. In this case, that's fine. We'll start on that. And we're gonna end it on May, I don't know, 9th or something. It doesn't really matter what we ended on, okay? So now we have a task that repeats. And so if we click on done, we have this repeating task here, okay? That's by showing this icon shows daily until May 9th, and it says take a look at this task. If we look at our calendar, as you can imagine, we now have take a look at this task, take a look at this task. We have all these things, all these different things here, all the way to May 9th, okay? That's where it ends. And if we click on this one, we got access to our email. Okay, same deal, and we can get back to the keep note by clicking on it. And if you click on any of them, if we click on this one, if we click on the 7th, let's click on the, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Any of them you click on, you will see the same thing. You can click on it, you can get to it, and you can have the link to the keep note. As I said before, since we cannot share Gmail with anybody else in this case, just the fact that we have all these tasks set up doesn't do any good to these people. But what you can do is simply do the sharing collaboration like I just showed you for the keep note and leave it at that level. But now, with that being in place, that's the only way you always share it, basically. But then on the calendar, let's say this would be John, and the next, and it asks you, do you want to do the repeating or just this one? So we're just going to change one. And then on this next one, we're going to say, this is going to be Paul. Keep in mind, we still have the same link. Everything is the same, but we're not changing anything except for these description here. And this would be George. May he rest in peace, along with John. And so we got John, Paul, George, and then the next one will be, let's see how good you guys are. Who's going to be the next one? That's correct. It's going to be Mr. Richard Starkey. We'll just call him Ringo here. Okay, so here we go. Right there, we just basically made a few little changes. And now we have these different days. Beatles are going to work for us here for a change. They're going to pay us. So anyway, so that's how you can do that. And of course, they could be different emails. They could be the same email. In this case, it's the same email. And on the keep side, what you can do is you can actually have tasks set up for each person. And you can set them up with checkboxes. And so this is really nice because then people, when they come to work on their calendar, if you wanted to see those tasks on the calendar, that calendar needs to be shared. They need to be able to access this calendar. So you'll need to share the calendar. They don't need to be able to change the calendar, but they still need to be able to see it. But all the work, what they do, could be set up in a keep note like this, where you have these different tasks identified with the checkboxes. And Mary has her keep note, and John has his. For example, is working on Alaska and Arkansas. When she gets done with Alaska, she just simply checks on her Google Keep Alaska, and then she checks Arkansas, and that's it. And it disappears from the note. And then if somebody else needs to work on Florida, they click on Florida. They need to work Idaho. When they get done, they click on Idaho. And so this way you have a complete status. Obviously, it wouldn't be states like I have it, but in their case, it would be whatever the different tasks they're supposed to perform. You have one keep note per person, and the person who's in charge can easily look at this note at any point in time to see where the different people are and what their statuses are in terms of what they're supposed to get done. So it makes it very easy, very simple. You share it with the right people, and you can manage it this way. And then the actual calendar part, as I mentioned, you just simply add the task to the calendar via Gmail on the management part. And then if you need the staff to be able to see it, then you also need to have the calendar be available for them to see. Otherwise, it basically works pretty much automatically. So if you have any questions about this, please leave them in the comments below. And until next time, I'm Oleg. But before I go, this is a time-sensitive event. I'm going to be hosting a Google Keep event on Skylar Network called Chaos to Clarity, Mastering Google Keep in 1 hour. And if you'd like to join and get more details about using Google Keep with all of its features and intricacies, please join me. I'll leave the link to the event down in the comments as well. And so again, it's on May 14th at 1 p.m. Pacific. And if you can't come, we'd love to see you.